Good evening, SRA Nation.
We're excited to get this season off with a bang.
I think they're all taking tires. And on top of that, it's going to be saucier. It's going to be an all-out shootout to the end. He's got line of sight on these guys.
I commend you for the bravery getting this close to the diffuser.
All you gotta do is win the race. You don't have to lead a whole bunch of laps.
Oh, they're going to be side by side going into the next corner.
Oh, that's a big contact in the back of the field.
Can't stay out there like this.
He stayed in it!
We're off and away for SRA.
Welcome again, everybody. We're back. It's the 2-week break over. We have the big grid behind us, and now it is Francorchamps ahead of us for round 6 of Season 10 here. It's Division 5. I'm Andrew Reif, as always, joined by Andrew Berg and Selena Boonstra. And oh my goodness, it is monsoon conditions out there on the track right now, guys. Truly ridiculous. I mean, talking about it, Selena, you know, we were having a discussion just before we got into it. Of course, you have a lot of classic overtaking positions on this track. The bus stop chicane is going to be the #1. But with Francorchamps having such little grip this go around, where are people really going to be looking to make these moves happen? I can. My Discord audio source. My Discord audio source is broken. Amazing. Okay. All right. This happens. Don't worry, it was bound to happen at least once in a while. So now, I'm Andrew Reif, joined by Andrew Berg and Selena Boonstra, who surely didn't have anything to say in all that time that I was completely silent on the stream and you guys couldn't hear anybody else. So I guess we'll do this. Now that you've got all your talking points out of the way, guys, why don't you say it all again?
We'll do it again. I actually messed up anyway. Earlier, there's 20 turns here, according to the track map. I initially said 19, so apparently we're counting turn 2 as a turn.
There you go.
But anyways, we have 10 right turns, 10 left turns, 4.3 miles long. We got a long pit road. It's over a half-mile long, but the story, it's a soaking wet spot.
And Selena, we'll give you a concatenated version. Overtaking spots. You know, it's hard to go through Francorchamps. What are your thoughts?
Well, to make it quick, I guess. Lasource, overtake. If somebody goes wide, just overtake there. Camel straight, slipstream. If you get that slipstream, you just, before you get the opportunity to overtake before Lacombe at turn 7, and pretty much from what I can see, yeah, the chicane as well. The bus stop chicane, that's also another corner that is possible for overtakes. But in the wet, it's going to be quite difficult with these drivers trying to get used to the condition. Well, I mean, we've had quite a bit to practice, but I mean, you never know, like with these varying conditions, like we could have probably a dry race, but who knows? We shall see.
Yeah, we'll take a look just real quick at the driver's standings, because people are starting to get out for their outlap now for qualifying. So we'll take a quick look here at the driver's standings for page 1, and specifically, I know my good friend Andrew Berg, you had some updates you kind of wanted to talk about coming into this week.
Yeah, it was starting to look like a rivalry brewing, a two-horse race, Josh Grush versus Austin Red. But a new challenger has emerged. It's Donovan Colton. He cruised to victory at Valencia, leading all but 2 laps 2 weeks ago. He moves first into this championship, up 4 spots.
It's really ridiculous showing. And of course, Tyler Thompson and James Spiker are still up there. We'll take a look at the team series here for a second. But one of the other stories we're kind of tracking right now, Tyler McCullough, who finished P2 in the last race, no longer participating in this season of SRA. So that's why you don't see him on the standings here. But yeah, moving down the list a little bit more, that helps to promote a couple of other drivers. Rene Oki has been one that we've talked about in a couple of other races so far, currently sitting in 6th at 271 points. So still a little bit of a shout potentially for them. Realistically, any of the drivers in the top 10, given good enough performances, maybe even a little bit farther out, could probably find their way to the top of the standings. David Herrera is a big one to watch out for. Raf Cab has also had some notable performances. We'll move now to page 2 of the driver standings. We have Mert Mertson kind of leading the table here, a driver who has had to improve throughout the season and has done so in a fairly phenomenal fashion. I gotta give him a hand for that improvement, really getting a hold of that Porsche as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, he took an 8th place at Paul Ricard. There's still some improvements for Mert, but you know, there is some highlights for him. He's just got to have a little more highlights rather than lowlights.
Take a quick glance here at the team series. Again, it's Corsa Spazzatura up at the top, 588 points. Double Edge Motorsports immediately falling behind at 473. And we'll probably not talk a little bit too much about that because we do have drivers beginning their flying laps. So I'm going to go ahead and swap us on over to the race here as we get underway for Francorchamps? Is that a thing that we can say? Francorchamps here, and it is medium rain conditions on the first couple of qualifying laps for the day. I'm expecting to see the times tumble fairly rapidly here, but before that dry line really gets established, I mean, what can we expect to see on the timing table?
It's going to vary. I mean, the benchmark, we're going to find out here shortly, but drivers to look out as far as silver is concerned. Dan Rufus, he took pole at Indy, right? This was a silver pole. James Spiker leading the team silver championship. He took pole at Kyalami. So those are the first drivers I'm going to be looking out for. I got Dan Rufus in the picture-in-picture, so we can keep an eye on him in his Porsche.
Selena, it's kind of coming to you real fast. Do you have any anticipations? You know, it's not really something that I've made a whole lot of consideration for, as James Spiker's a little bit of a slide there on their first flying lap. But are we expecting any sort of particularly strong vehicles on this track today? I haven't noticed, like, looking at any of the hot lapping leaderboards, anything really standing out to me. But I imagine that something with a little bit more downforce, a little bit more reliability in the traction zones might get a little bit of an advantage, but it's really difficult to tell.
Yeah, it really is, considering like this is our first and last dry race of this season. I mean, it's not a dry race, so the times are going to be very, very different. So I have no idea who is going to actually take the crown here, and well, even for qualifying as well. But we shall see, though.
Pole's crucial, right? Pole's always important. You want to be in the front row, right? But in a wet race, particularly, it's important because of the spray. Spray meaning the water coming off the back of the car. I was in the practice race last night, 15th out of 30 cars. Couldn't see at all. I might as well have just done a roof cam, right? Just get out of the rain, and I might end up having to do that tomorrow. But being on that front row and the less cars in front of you, it just makes it so much easier. Being mid-pack is going to be extremely difficult.
Oh yeah, and you're going to lose quite a bit amount of time being stuck behind someone with all that spray being into your face, because trying to see where they're braking, and also with these wet conditions, braking is totally different compared to the dry conditions. So drivers are going to have to be really careful when behind each other.
Well, first laps are in. We've been calling him DZ. We're going to switch that over to Zip per his request. So Zip first with a 2:32.8 ahead of Unda and Rufus and Spiker.
Lots of improvements coming down, and a lot of invalid laps I'm seeing on the table. Thomas Ma, who is really qualifying for the first time in quite some time. I believe had a qualifying ban for Indianapolis, and I think also started from the pit lane at Valencia. So is actually out on track for the qualifying session so far. Has not set a valid lap, though, and that's going to continue to be the case for them. We've already only got 3 minutes left, so they're going to have 2 more opportunities. You need the next one for a banker, and your next one most likely for a push lap. Zip, of course, is improving actually quite a bit already on their lap time if you want to get on board with that. Dan Rufus is also up about 1.5 seconds, which I'll get on board with as they move down towards Blanchimont here. I mean, 1.5 seconds of improvement already. I'm seeing actually quite a few times starting to get into that territory. Ian Demler, I was just on board with a moment ago, 1.6 up. Cowley right now, 1.1 up on their time. So massive improvements coming down the table.
Yeah, this is going to come down. I think the first to cross is going to be Rufus, picture in picture. So he'll be the first to cross. This is a massive improvement for him. I think he's going to break DZ's, or Zip's 2:32.8. Surely be broken here. Final turn. Here comes Dan Rufus.
Ian Demler up almost 2 seconds. Rufus, 2:31.6. You predicted it. But Zip is still improving as well. Here's Ian Demler to put their time on the table. So 33.1. Not bad at all. Mike Cowley, again, is improving. I'll get on board with Cowley here actually at the end of their lap. Zip still improving, though. Again, 1 second up. There's loads and loads of time to be found, especially in Eau Rouge Radion. It's going to be a very, very quick dry up for that section of the track here. But as Cowley comes across the line, a 2:35.1 was their last lap. They're improving through the bus stop chicane, almost 2 seconds up on their time. And I feel like we're going to see the pole lap set for this, at least for the Silvers here, in the last lap or two coming up.
Picture in pictures on the board with Zip coming through the chicane. 20th turn. He's clean. This is another big improvement.
Time, but
Not quite there.
Yeah, you're right. He lost some time there in that last chicane.
Right at the
I believe they were talking about in the driver's briefing. I believe that the cutoff for the Silvers might be a little bit earlier. I could be wrong on that. Just keep an eye out for when they continue to set their laps. I'm going to go on board with Eric Rutherham right now as we finally get valid laps for the majority of the Silvers on the table. I just saw yellow for Thomas Ma, and he still does not have a valid lap on the board at the moment. Nathan Schaefer has a yellow. Looks like that's out of the exit of No Name, and that's going to be in the wall and back into the pit lane. No more laps for them.
Yeah, Thomas Ma, I don't think he's actually qualified in D5. And I think he even had a ban or a qualifying penalty in D6 when he was down there. So I don't think we've seen him, and this could even continue, qualify this season. This may be the third or fourth time he has yet to put a lap in for qualifying.
Gonna go on with JP May. Just out of Lacombe and Malmedy, in towards Ravage. 6/10 up on their time at 2:35.1. They could sure use a return to form here, I guess is the only way I can really say it. Wet Spa, of course, is a difficult beast to master, to tame, and all these things and more, but there are some drivers who are clearly putting up their best effort. It looks like the 2:31.6 is going to remain the pole time for now. Dan Rufus and Zip are both in the pits right now. The gold drivers have yet to leave the pit lane.
Oh, no. He was up and lost it again. Final sector. Ian Demler still in 4th place. Had a shot at taking Unda's 3rd, but it's Spiker. So it's Rufus, Zip, Spiker. And that's it. We have drivers still out on track. Cowley, Mertzen, May, Ma.
All are improving. Ma's only a very slight improvement on 2:36.7, which is a bit unexpected, but Mertzen up a second on their time. JP May up a second on their time. These could be quite a few positions for both these drivers. I'm looking at 3 or 4. Oh, but no, I just seen JP May has invalidated their lap. Mertzen continues across the line into P7 for the Silvers. And I believe that should just about be the end of Silver qualifying. Ma is actually still out on a valid lap as Donovan Colton, I believe, begins to lead out the golds in the background, but this is really the only action actually happening on track at the moment. I've just seen a massive time improvement here for Thomas Ma. They must have messed up the Puan last time because they are moving down in the timing table.
Almost debatable, though. either you want to be dead last, right, and have all the action happen in front of you, or you're near the front. I don't know if this is an improvement though for Thomas Ma.
Slight lift. Leading towards the flat out section on the back part of the track. Missed the apex there by a little bit. That Audi we've seen has gotten away from a couple of times so far this season. It's surely a very lively vehicle. Quite difficult
Only
to get
one
the
on
hang
field,
of.
too. The only Audi here in P5.
The bus stop chicane. 1.3 seconds up on their time right now. Again, a couple of spaces of improvement are up on the table. Maybe a little bit too much. Oh, Thomas Ma back into the...
There it goes.
I'm
Yeah.
lost.
He must have bailed on it or went to, he invalidated the lap.
I think he might have had a connection drop or some such on his own side, because it immediately dropped my race control, but he still finished the lap. It was a 2:35.5, which I don't think was as big of an improvement as I saw on the timing sheet. So he may have just become the victim of some sort of unfortunate circumstance that I'm not privy to.
Well, he's basically going to start on the last row, unless someone here in the pros, in the golds, excuse me, has a similar type incident. But as long as he can get back in the server, he's fine.
Well, he's still in the server for me. I just very confused as to what happened, but we have seen it. I think he's been having some connection issues really throughout the season, so it may have just been an unfortunate incident there. But yes, it is Donovan Golden, indeed, the first driver from the Golds that will see Eau Rouge and Radion at racing speed for today's session. 7 minutes and 20 left in qualifying for the Golds as they're starting their first flying laps, and that's a big slide through Eau Rouge and Radion. And Donovan Golden has invalidated their lap immediately here on the first tour.
Yeah, track limit warnings are really gonna be an issue, especially in the wet. Like, the dry is one thing, but the wet, that is a whole other thing. And those drive-thrus, I'm hoping that everyone just keeps it in between the lines and nobody gets a drive-thru. And yeah, they'll be on their merry way, hopefully.
Well, specifically, I mean, you were talking earlier, Andrew, about this pit lane is, well, it's not exactly forgiving for anybody who has to take an extra trip through it. So getting a drive-through here would be especially painful.
It really would.
Yeah, I think we also have to take tires too, right? So there's a mandatory tire change today. So add 30 seconds, plus a half-mile trip down the endurance pit lane. I don't even know the math there, but that's minutes.
It's a long time. Yeah.
It is.
I do wonder if we're going to see alternative strategies. I mean, obviously tire wear is going to be a very real factor, but in the wet, I would say that it's a little bit less so than in the dry. I saw some discussions in a couple of different forums that it definitely is worth it to take tires. But talking about the timing of taking tires, we might see some people decide to pit maybe a little bit earlier than you would normally see. Obviously, the sweet spot in a dry race is going to be right smack dab in the middle, right in the halfway point. You can run your first stint as hard as you want, and then just let your tires go, because you're going to get fresh new ones. But in the wet, you might see a little bit of a diminishing return on trying to go smack dab in the middle of the race, so you might commit harder for the undercut. I don't know if that's necessarily accurate. I could be completely wrong. I'm completely wrong a lot of times. People just don't know because I say it confidently. But that could very well be a strategy. That's a nice take of Francorchamps for Josh Gross. That looks good.
Yeah, Josh Grush coming off back-to-back heartbreaks. Think back to Indianapolis, 2 minutes left in the race, hits a back marker, loses first place. Last week, 2 weeks ago at Valencia, in our last race, he ended up serving a track cut, drive-through penalty with 3 minutes to go in the race, and lost a podium. This is a guy who desperately needs some good results here if he wants to manage a championship run.
Timing's beginning to come in, but there's a lot of invalid laps on the first goes around. So you don't necessarily see a whole lot of them moving up, but it's Regali Vita who is in front for the Golds right now. It's a 33.5, so surely not quite on the pace that we saw from Dan Rufus, who is not in the server presently. I'm assuming we're going to see him back eventually, but I believe that benchmark time was a 31.8 roughly. So keep an eye out for that. Grush is already improving, just about a second up on their time, so He's got quite a bit on his plate. Donovan Golden invalidated their second lap. You got to get a banker in sometime. Kent Van Sickle has also invalidated their second lap. No times on the board for either of those two drivers.
Yeah, interesting for Van Sickle. Fastest lap at Kyalami, highest average qualifying driver. So out of raw pace, he is the fastest here in D5. No question. Average qualifying, the fastest going across the entire season. The trouble is he doesn't have any drop rounds left. I'm sorry, he's missed 2 races. So not a player in this championship, but for him not to have a lap in right now and just under a yellow, it's not looking good. This is a break from the normal Van Sickle we've seen.
Rene Oki also does not have a lap yet, and I'm assuming that this next lap is going to be the last one if you're near the front of the field, or if, yeah, I think everybody's going to get one more lap here. But only having one more lap, we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers who have not put down a time. David Herrera is staying in the pits, by the way. I believe they have a qualifying ban for this race. That's a bit of a slide there for Tyler Thompson, so certainly not helping. They're really struggling to get a hold of the wet spot today.
I think the conditions are worsening.
I don't know. But it felt like after we saw the silvers go out, you know, it seemed like, oh yeah, track was drying up. We saw massive improvements coming down the table for pretty much the entire go around. I'm gonna get on board with Josh Grush as he finishes his lap. He was a second up on his time at one point during this lap, but he's only a 10th up now and still losing in towards the bus stop chicane. This is nothing that he wanted, and I believe he actually just did invalidate on the exit of the last turn. Rigeli Vita also invalidated their last lap. There's a whole lot of going over track limits here. Ken Van Sickle still is not gonna have a valid time as they're coming down towards the bus stop chicane.
This is interesting. On our race control, there was at one point only one driver with a clean lap. So clearly this is struggling. What's red? Here we go. Red, 31.9, which I don't believe, if Rufus gets back in here, would be second. It would be the front row.
Yeah. So Van Sickle is gonna start their last lap of the session. You need to put up a valid one now. Rene Oki is on an invalid lap right now, about 54 seconds in. I think they might just have enough time to put in one more flyer, and they need it. Donovan Colton, he might just have enough time for a second lap after this one, but he still does not have a valid time on the board. Same for Kent Van Sickle. This is his only chance now to put up any qualifying time at all. There's lots of drivers here. I mean, Van Sickle, we know, has been fast in the past. Colton was our last race winner. Rene Oki is a race winner this season. David Herrera was starting from the back of the pack this race. He's he's been in contention for a race when Tyler Thompson's just gone off, so now that's going to be the end of his qualifying session. Josh Grush, it's pretty much all up to you. Rigeli Vita has invalidated their time. Josh Grush, it's really all up to him as he now screams down towards Puan. I don't think there's anybody else on the track who is either setting a valid lap or an improvement lap.
It's, yeah, but the drivers to watch, I think, are Josh Grush, picture in picture, and Vitae in his McLaren 154. He's out.
He's on an invalid lap, yeah.
Oh, you're right. He's on an invalid lap. Okay, so it's really Josh Grush. We didn't get laps from Van Sickle, Colton, and Aoki. Drivers serving qualifying bans today: Maurice, Herrera, and Raf Cab. So only 17 drivers have put in clean laps.
Rene Uki might still get across the line here. Watch that 43 on your track map coming towards the line. The 305 I just saw is returning to the pits. That's Roger Rodriguez. He's out of qualifying. Ken Van Sickle is still on a valid lap right now, so he'll likely put up a time. Watch the 634. But I'm going to stay on board here with Josh Grush. About a half second and some change up on his best time so far. But Rene Oki did just start another flyer right at the line.
He did. He just got across with 4 seconds to spare, so he has to keep this clean.
Donovan
Rene
Colton
Oki, the winner from Indy.
Donovan Colton didn't make it. That's the end of his qualifying session. Here's Grush now down to the line, about 5 and some change, tenths up into P8.
Few positions gained.
Not bad, and that's the end of the session now. It's Kent Van Sickle and Rene Oki, the only two drivers out on the track right now, neither of which has a valid lap time. I mean, we're seeing 234s out into P13. That's Eric Rudderim, specifically who I was citing. Kent Van Sickle, he did just run a little bit wide there, but it's still a valid lap in towards the bus stop chicane. Needs just to keep it on track. There's so many positions you could gain just from getting this one valid lap. Rene Oki is in the exact same boat, who we'll get on board with in just a moment. I think you have it in the PIP right now will move up only 1 position into 19th. Well, you know what? It's an overtake you don't have to get done on track, and in a wet spa, that's a blessing.
Yeah, Aoki is on a valid lap, but he's 5 seconds off, so that's not an improvement. So what you see on your screen is going to be our qualifying order. Wherever Aoki falls, I mean,
well,
it's clean lap, but he's just nursing this car around.
The delta, I don't know if that really is representative necessarily. I think that might represent their like a delta against their practice pace. Not necessarily like a previous qualifying, obviously, but it's a little bit of a slide out of poo on there in towards Campus, and now Stavilo coming up. This is a very challenging set of corners, and when you know that you've just messed up your exit a little bit out of point, I mean, this is a very flowy track, right? If you mess up one corner, odds are you're probably going to have a little bit of slowness in the flow, and I think the session just ended. Well, Aoki's still out on track. Wait a minute. I guess we'll just keep tracking this. But
okay, this is interesting.
I could have sworn there was still wait time left on the clock, but Ren Aoki. No val lap for Ren Aoki. I'm not sure about that, quite honestly.
Interesting.
So did we get Dan Rufus back in here?
We did. At the front of the field, pole sitter again.
That's his second pole. First pole was at Indianapolis. I will remind you, I mean, Dan, you can, put your hands over your ears. He's not going to want to hear this, but he got to turn 1 and then was spun around by Rodriguez. So his fun only lasted barely 1 turn, hoping for the better here today at Spa. But Dan Rufus takes pole, his second of the season. Austin Red continues that front row streak again. Another front row start for Austin Red. His championship rival, Josh Grush, starting this race in 8th. And Colton, where's Colton? Colton...
9th.
9th.
The Colt drivers, I mean, just looking at their qualifying position, didn't really put up the most impressive of performances. I don't know. I guess, like I said before, they just didn't quite get the best of Spa today. I mean, we have Roger Rodriguez, the 305, all the way down in 18th. Tyler Thompson, the 57. Again, talking about Corsa Spazzatura, they are quite consistent with their placements. They did well in Valencia 2 weeks ago, specifically when they qualified both a fairly low down. James Spiker is actually sitting in P4 off qualifying, so at least he's had a good outing in that session. But Tyler Thompson way down in 16th right now. I wonder if we're going to see a similar pit strategy, trying to just dip out very, very early on, get some clean air, which, as you mentioned earlier, Selena, is very important when you're trying to follow somebody through this massive spray in Spa-Francorchamps. I mean, it's already scary enough taking out Rouge and Radillon. Just on your own in these kinds of conditions.
Well, that's for sure.
Mertzen up in 11th place. We talked already a little bit about this driver today, Mertzen, who has been improving more or less throughout the season. Trying to get that Porsche to stay under control underneath of them in 11th place right now. If they can convert this into top 10, that would be a phenomenal outing for them. Ian Demler in 7th. That's certainly a good spot for them to start. Kevin Unda. I wouldn't necessarily say that they are uncharacteristically highly placed here after qualifying, but that's surely going to be a good session for them. And Zip, a 363 Ferrari right here, which looks phenomenal, I have to say, in that golden red. That's a good-looking car, starting up on the podium positions. But Eau Rouge and Radillon are old enemies. I feel like there's going to be a non-zero amount of carnage here on lap 1. I'm hoping for the best, but who knows what will happen.
This will be the most challenging race of the season, and it's not even close. We've struggled with some penalties and keeping some of our racing clean, but you add weather. And in this amount of rain, it's a challenge for D1 drivers and D2 drivers. It's going to be a very, very tough race for some of these guys.
You hear that little puddle right there at the pit exit line. Tyler Thompson just went over right here where Connor Farrell is crossing right there, that is going to be a very challenging spot for the drivers. I know that you guys have probably experienced that when you're doing your hot lapping, and with medium rain here, I fully expect a completely developed puddle right there at that pit exit line. If you don't have your steering straightened out there and you take that puddle flat out, you might have a bit of a spin. And if you're on lap 1 with many cars around you, or if you've taken Eau Rouge a little bit conservatively and somebody's right up on your diffuser, things might get ugly there. So you surely have to watch out for that. There's another braking zone later on. I believe it's into campus after Puan. Very high speed. There's a puddle immediately before the braking zone. So again, a very easy spot to lose control of the vehicle and make contact. So not only are you fighting your own car for grip, but then you're trying to battle the drivers around you as well. So if somebody is going to be able, I mean, we've seen a lot of good racecraft from D5, specifically in Valencia. It was a much cleaner race than we've had for the rest of the season. We saw some great racecraft there. If they can replicate that somehow today, I will be astonished, and in a good way.
Oh yeah, and it's, speaking from the practice race yesterday, D3, D4, we actually had, I believe, a perfect lap 1, especially at Eau Rouge Radion. It was unbelievable to see that. So it is possible to make a full clean lap 1. It is possible. So I'm really hoping for D5 to make that shot like D3 and D4 did yesterday for the practice race.
I'm not putting my money on it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be hopeful, but we'll see from what we've seen this season.
Vita
I'll do a 10-leg parlay before I put money on that.
Vita is in the pits. Was VTA supposed to serve a pit lane start this week? I think that actually may have been the case, but I'm uncertain as of right now. If one of you guys wants to quick investigate that, but we're getting the formation lap done here. As we're doing that, I kind of want to hear what is the biggest story that we're tracking today. I'll go first because I know exactly what it's going to be. I'm tracking Dan Rufus. This man he's probably got the red vision from the last time that we were out at Indianapolis and he was on pole, and he was thinking to himself like, race win, and it was all dashed right at turn 1. This man is going to be out for revenge today.
Austin Red, that's the driver I'm looking at. Last week, he started the race out of position. He was on pole, served a drive-through immediately, so hit with a penalty. So that's something he's probably thinking about right now as he's about to start the race again on the front row. Austin Red, make sure you start in your right grid spot, Austin.
So, 2 previous pole sitters from the 2 previous races who had 2 previous disasters that ended their shot at a race win. Selena, what are you looking at?
I'm thinking, I'm looking at either Austin Red or Dan Rufus, because he clearly has a shot, as we've seen from Indy, but an unfortunate event. But I'm feeling Dan Rufus or Austin Red. Either one of those two really strong drivers from the season. But yeah, I'm looking at those two.
Ravcap in the pit lane. I believe they're serving a pit start. I could be mistaken on that front. But we're rounding La Source now, and we're getting ready to go. It's Dan Rufus on pole position from Austin Red. Zip just behind. Zipper, it's James Spiker, excuse me, Mike Cowley and Kevin Onda. Huge opportunities for all of the drivers in the top 10 today. Josh Grush going to be looking for a return to form. Donovan Colton, last race winner, out, down in a P9. Murray Mertzen gets promoted to 10th place with Ravcap and Rigele Vita moving into the pit lane. We're ready to go green here on Spa Francorchamps, and they're underway in the wet. It's Dan Rufus, who's got a fairly good launch, looking into Eau Rouge Radion. It's Zip, and it's going to be Spiker side by side through there, and it looks like they're going to be able to navigate that one cleanly. Kevin Onda stays in position alongside Josh Grush, Donovan Colton. There's yellows further back the field. I see a lot of cars still pointing the right direction though, and we have to wait for that one puddle there at the pit exit line. Looks like most of them got through cleanly. That's a beautiful start for this race.
Beautiful. Yep. D3, D4 practice race right here so far.
Dan Rufus got through turn 1 clean, and he's got a gap to Austin Red. But the traffic, it's behind him. It's Spiker moving up a spot, getting around Zip. Now into third.
Oh, and Austin Red's giving it a look here in towards Ravage. He's going to think better of it, though. I mean, at this point, if you're Dan Rufus or Austin Red, you've gotten through lap 1 cleanly so far. You don't necessarily want to make a huge play. Mike Cowley is having an incident here. Kevin Under gets involved. Many more getting some contact as well. It looks like it's going to be Under that is the big loser in that one, though, at Ravage. You want to see if you can get that one back for us. It's a big lap 1 incident there.
Picture in picture, he's the black and green. He does that kind of on his own. Doesn't leave much room for Unda. That's a racing incident.
Oh,
wow, Cowley and Unda.
I've just caught Rudderham making some contact here with, I believe that was Connor Farrell in Puan. Kent Van Sickle got caught up in that too, but it looks like there were no more cars implicated in that incident. So yeah, a couple of incidents here on lap 1, but thankfully not a whole lot of carnage going on in relation to those. I'm sure our pit lane starters are going to be happy to see a little bit of company in the back of the field, but it did seem like a relatively clean start here. Zip has got a fairly good run here on Spiker, who did get the overtake done earlier this lap, but in towards Blanchimont, this looks like it might be an overtaking opportunity even towards the bus stop. I think Zip might have lifted off just a little bit to try to keep things safe here.
Quick check on your leaders. Rufus still leads Austin Red. It's a second gap till we get to James Spiker in third in his 55 Ferrari. Zip also in a Ferrari, currently sitting in fourth, but a gap may be building. Rufus and Red looking to run away.
Rene Oki's already moved up quite a few positions. I mean, we saw them starting in the back of the field. But they're up into 15th already. Josh Grush has moved up 1 position and looking for another one potentially towards La Source. In towards the inside of Donovan Colton. Space is afforded by the 272, and it looks like the move might just about be done here for the McLaren of Josh Grush, but they're going to have a bit of a drag race down towards Eau Rouge, and Josh Grush does opt to hop into the slipstream. It's going to be very difficult to navigate. We talked about this a little bit earlier. We're going one car immediately behind the other in the wet here. If Josh Grush can slightly get the run, maybe the slipstream, this could be an overtaking opportunity.
Donovan Colton, your winner 2 weeks ago at Valencia, and Josh Grush still looking for that first SRA win. He's been second place twice this season.
Donovan Colton playing it
Side
particularly
by
safe.
near my side. Donovan Colton and Josh Grush looking to make the move on the inside, but not quite. Donovan Colton just capitalized on the outside. Or the inside. Yes, the outside. Excuse me.
Keep an eye on Herrera as well. Driver was had some famous pace for D5 standards so far this season, but started in the pit lane. Regale Vita is looking like they're trying to get a move here against Rafcab. This is only for P23, but with the race being as young as it is, there's no telling how things could go. Kent Ben Sickle is in a very similar situation, as is Kevin Unda. In towards Puan, actually looking for an overtake. This is not a braking zone that you'd necessarily view as an overtaking opportunity, but Unda has got the move done.
He's made some good moves this season, and I like his racecraft. Definitely a driver who's certainly improving, but this is by far his best qualifying performance coming into the race. This would be his best race, and it's not even close. I think Unda, I'll get to where he finished later on, if you give me a moment, but Unda, looking good. I like what I see.
Scott Vita getting past a Rafcab. Connor Farrell has gotten off here. It looks like that's the exit of campus, and those two cars that we were just watching will get by him. Looks like there were no other cars involved in that incident, thankfully. This is Mertzen in front of Tyler Thompson with a potential overtaking opportunity coming up in the bus stop. That 83 is still off on the side of the track, so that's going to be a lot of positions lost for Connor Farrell and a lot of time, and I think he actually just leaves the server, which is very unfortunate to see, but, you know, it's a difficult mental battle. We've talked about it before.
This will be his drop round, so he hasn't taken that drop yet. So it's race over. Connor Farrell.
So Rene Oki being overtaken by David Herrera. But I believe that was a re-overtake for David Herrera. I think Rene Oki actually got past him a little bit earlier on. JP May is starting to get a little bit implicated in this battle as well. And this is going to be side by side through Eau Rouge. I feel like somebody's going to have to lift out of this one. I don't like the odds for taking this one at full speed. Ren Aoki is going to give a little tap of the brakes. There's space on the inside, and oh my goodness, somehow they navigate that one safely. You can see Kevin going a little bit into the runoff. A bit of a slide there for Jerome Mai immediately behind, but they do navigate it safely. Through some sort of power of God. I have no idea how David Herrera is potentially looking for a move here against Roger Rodriguez. Potentially thinks better of it. JP May up the inside of Rene Aoki into Lake Combe with Kevin Unza immediately behind. They're still going at this one. That GTR is powerful in a straight line, but so is the Bentley. It's going to be a very difficult one. And David Herrera is going to yellow. David Herrera is in the runoff.
We'll see if we can get that back. David Herrera, picture in picture.
Having a bit of a stutter there. I think it.
I'm not sure where that happened.
Lost. Might have been, yeah, might have been lost to us, but he did go off on the runoff there. It looked like maybe a mistake entry of the Combe, trying to go a little bit too aggressive on the brakes potentially, but one way or the other. He's going to drop down. He's in 19th place now, about a second and a half behind Jerome Mai with a little bit of pressure from behind, but I feel like he's going to be looking forward in this race. There might have been a little bit of damage sustained, but it didn't look like it was going to be too severe, if there was any. We're on board with Zip right now. Again, behind James Spiker. That gap to the front, though, has developed quite a bit. It's 4 seconds to Austin Red, who is still right up behind Dan Rufus and giving us a battle. Maybe even looking at a potential overtaking opportunity. The Lamborghini very, very strong on the brakes. In towards the bus stop chicane. Rufus has the right to the line. He's going to take that apex nicely. A little bit of caution and respect being shown by both drivers, and they're going to get through that one cleanly. But Red is still looking for it.
And the reason that actually gap was almost close to a second, if not over it. Last lap, Austin Red was he was a half second faster than Dan Rufus. So that gap was gone. But here puzzling. Dan gets such a good launch out of the source, and that gap's back to a second.
See as well, I don't know if you noticed, but Ian Demler, I think, capitalized on the fight between James Spiker and Zip and actually made a move at the bus stop. I think Zip might have made a mistake. So that's a good move for Ian Demler. Team Rev Cap has just gotten past Eric Rudderham at La Source. Again in the back of the field, but still loads of time left in the race. David Herrera, David Herrera is well off towards the pit lane exit. Jerome Mai implicated in that one as well, and Herrera, a little bit across the track, but will not pick up anybody else in that incident. And Herrera, again, I mean, this has kind of been the story of his season so far, just having some incidents and kind of getting implicated. Let's see what happens.
Nobody's lost more positions this season than David Herrera. And I think I said this in a week before. It's not even close. I think he's lost over 60 positions if you add them all up, from where he qualifies to where he ends up.
Ooh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
he was like front row. He was once a front row driver here at Kyalami. Next race, 35th, 33rd,
Ooh.
right? Those types of performances. And he's actually 9th in the championship? Go figure.
Wow. Crazy.
Zip still trying to get past, Ian Demler. I'm keeping an eye on that one, but yeah, it really is. I mean, David Herrera, I was looking back on that replay, and it did look like he kind of lost it on his own. Jerome Mai had a moment in front of him. I think he might have gotten a little bit too focused on that car instead of trying to, keep it under control himself, or maybe just got a little bit distracted, maybe was worried that the car was going to come across. I mean, that's a corner where you can't necessarily react very safely to try and take avoiding action, so I can completely understand maybe a little bit of a lapse in concentration on taking your line there. So that's just an unfortunate situation for Herrera. You got to get your head down and just see if you can make it work. Austin Red still struggling to get around Dan Rufus here. There's only 10 minutes of this race gone, but this Lamborghini, you can see, I mean, those front teeth they've got to be getting old for Dan Rufus on that car behind.
I think Dan Rufus is probably familiar with the famous Rexy in IMSA. So, I mean...
AO Racing, right?
He's not taking that, or he's taking that Lamborghini lightly by the looks of it. Not phase him at all.
Yeah, that AO Racing Porsche is a fan favorite at track.
Oh,
so
yeah. The
always
new
a
fan
fun
favorite.
Yeah, it's a fun car.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a mention here of Ian Demler on your picture-in-picture just in a quick moment here. Your fastest lap of the race with a 2:31.3. That's a half second faster than the next guy, James Spiker. So Ian Demler, your track racer fastest lap of the race. Track racer, experience redefined gaming with Track Racer's high-quality sim rigs and accessories. Use code SRA TE at checkout.
You see Mike Kelly get bumped around by Thomas Ma on the entry lake home. It looked like it was going to be a move done, but instead some positions lost. I think that was 4 or 5 cars getting by there. It's a very unfortunate incident there. Mike Kelly, who down quite a few positions. I mean, in 16th, qualified high up the order. I believe in 5th, if I'm not mistaken. And oh no, I see a yellow for Rufus. Oh, he's gonna be too.
Oh no!
Through Puon, looks like they were trying to take a little bit too much of the inside. That promotes James Spiker to the race lead.
Oh.
Picture-in-picture. See if we can get it.
That is absolutely
That's
heartbreaking
Rufus.
for damn Rufus.
Oh,
Wow. All the way back into P6 for Austin Red and P7 Dan Rufus. Oh.
Dan Rufus kind of just dropped the right rear tire over Puon onto the curb. So slick there and so easy to do. That's turn 10, and Austin Red, nowhere to go, right? It's not like he can just snap the car. It's a wet track.
Yeah. Grip is so just not there at all in comparison to a dry track. There's not really much you can do in that moment.
well, bad moment. But a good moment here for Rene Oki. Very confident in the grip on the outside of Blanchimont. Actually took Roger Rodriguez and promotes themselves to 1 spot. But, I mean, for all the drivers behind the leaders, now it's for Zip. You're 1.5 seconds from the lead in this race. More disaster, though, befalling Dan Rufus and Austin Red. For Austin Red, that one's probably going to feel... I mean, do you feel worse if you're Austin Red or Dan Rufus? Because if you're Dan Rufus, you just wiped out of the lead completely on your own. But if you're Austin Red, you know, you just got taken out completely out of your control. Who feels worse in that situation? I mean, you both feel bad, surely, but...
That's a tough one. Because Austin Red would have actually stolen the lead, but, I mean, right place, wrong time.
It's not over, though. Austin Red sitting in 6th place, so, you know, they built up a pretty sizable gap. It's gone, but race not over. There's still plenty of time.
Oh, yeah. There's still about 46 minutes left in the race, and
I'm not sure how
they're
I feel
one
about
of the
this.
fastest drivers on the track. They have a shot.
Looked for a moment like Van Sickle, Vitea, and Herrera were about to go 3 wide into Lake Home. It looks like at least one or more of them thought better of it, and they're going to continue that fight through the remainder of the lap. In fact, it looks like Herrera might be sneaking up the inside for Ravage. But it's been a pretty conservative race in terms of overtaking from these drivers. We've seen a couple of solid moves. In fact, Rene Oki might be sneaking up for Puon here. That's Aaron Kovac immediately ahead, but they will choose to drop back on that one. I've just seen Ian Dell's been overtaken by Zip. I completely missed that on my screen. If you want to see if you can get that one back in the picture-in-picture, there's so many low gaps, and Ian Demler going a little bit wide there on the entrance of Stavelo, and now what in the world is going on with Donovan Colton? Going to lose a position to Josh Crush. What is happening?
Ooh, it looked like Vansicle just a little bit of Herrera's fender, but luckily, or by the looks of it, but luckily nothing bad happened out of that. Oh, little bumping action from behind with Herrera. Very close fighting.
There's a lot of fights going on simultaneously around the track here. I think
Yeah.
it's quite easy to get caught up behind another car. I would wager it's probably a little bit easier to follow on this one because of that slipstream effect. You know, it's going to compound. Mike Callie's got a yellow flag, but he's not off. My race control might be telling me some lies, but he does have pretty low speed here as JP May sneaking up the inside of the bus stop chicane. So maybe there was a mistake, maybe running it just a little bit wide there on the exit of Blanchimont. Looking for the switchback. There was Mike Callie in towards La Source. This could still be a fight here.
Howley coming off 2 6th places in the last 3 races. So a driver coming in with momentum. Today, 17th. There's still some improvement to be made, though. But Howley, I like what I've seen from him over the last 3 weeks.
It's Donovan Colton and Josh Grush going at it on the Kimmel straight. I believe that was Grush trying to make that attack. Didn't quite pan out there. Kevin Unda making something happen. Really, Vita has got a little bit of a yellow flag, but that's Herrera right next to him, who went a little bit wide at Radion, trying to keep their position. So more action, looking like it's going to be served up at the end of the Kimmel straight. David Herrera, who was, I don't know how in the world Vita got in front. Actually, we saw Herrera make the overtake at La Source, was in front of the opposing McLaren, but is now behind before they even got to the braking zone here for Lacombe.
Just quickly, I'm starting to see a lot more times in the 31s and low 2-minute 32s. So maybe this track's forming a dry line right here. Maybe this track's speeding up. So something to watch out for. Maybe the drivers start to get a little more aggressive as they're getting more comfortable with the track. But if it's speeding up and there's a dry line forming, watch for moves to start happening.
Uh-oh. That's a yellow for Unda. Oh, boy. That's a huge off for Unda. Gonna hit the tire barrier there with a not insignificant impact, and that is a complete turnaround there. And more incidents continue to befall us here on this soaked track.
That's tough for Unda. He qualified inside the top 10. That was his first time this season.
JP May having a little Tokyo Drift moment. Now Vitier really at the back end of him, trying to go side by side.
The lead
right behind.
Yeah, it's going. Yeah, they're going at the back here, but I see the lead.
Oh, little wide moment. Still, JP May holds his line. Oh, little slide moment from Vitier.
Yeah, it was Spiker. Spiker made a mistake in the chicane, and that cost him the lead. Although he's right up with Zip now, but it was a mistake from Spiker in the chicane, final chicane.
Oh, it's a good
Went
run.
Deep.
Again, they gotta be careful of that puddle. You might be able to hear it on stream there, but it's Zip up against Spiker. Spiker's on the inside, just barely ahead into the braking zone here for Lacombe, and this should be a relatively cut and dry one for the two Ferraris going at it here. It's Herrera and Vita going at it again into Eau Rouge, and Vita looks like they took it hot there. Might get a little bit of a track limit warning. Austin Red's got a yellow flag up ahead, but it looks like he's still on track. So nice that they were able to navigate that one. Merton, oh no! It was lost at the end of the Kimmel straight. Huge impact side on into the barrier, and they were having a pretty good race up until now. Well, that's going to put a damper on it for sure.
Picture still on your lead battle. James Spiker and Zip. Ian Demler 1.8 seconds behind, and it's Colton Brush Red.
Oh, race leader having a yellow spin out, just lost it. Oh no, James Spiker.
Picture.
No way. No
Wow.
way.
The leaders just look like they just are
It's the
having
same spot. The same
trouble.
spot that got Colton.
Just
Oh no.
Same exact thing.
Oh.
Except this time, Zip got around. Red did not. But the same spot, Puan. You cannot touch that curb. It is. I don't know why particularly that curb, but if your right rear touches there, you're going to go around every time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we saw it 2 for 2 so far tonight.
I mean, it's ironic you mentioned that, though. I've noticed in practice, and I think it might just be catching out the drivers as well, because I've taken that curb a couple of times in practice. You know, I put down the power, but as long as you're careful about it, which Ken Vinsickle is not here, as he goes to the tire barrier too. A nightmarish race for so many drivers. But yeah, you definitely have to be careful with power. You gotta feel out your car. I mean, if you have to know what your car is going to do in the event of a slide, though, as well. I'm noticing that from a lot of these drivers. It seems like they're not expecting these slides, but it's wet conditions. You always knew this was going to happen. If you touch that curb, you only have yourself to blame if you end up wiping out while you're on the power.
You know what's happening? The track actually is getting a little faster. I know it seems odd, right? We see cars spinning, but there's a dry line forming, and then confidence is growing. But it really shouldn't be. It should be growing at a very smaller increments. And right now they're being tricked perhaps into thinking, oh, I can hit this curb. I'm going faster. And they see their deltas improving by a half a second when they're really, you're improving too quickly, too much.
Oh my goodness, this is Colton up on the main straight against Josh Grush on the inside. Colton, who made a mistake at La Source and allowed Grush trying for the outside move here in that Aston Martin.
Oh.
That's bold. This McLaren
Making
is
big. Wow.
The McLaren is very, very strong in the corners, so I'm surprised that Colton is going at this as well as he is, and he might still have an opportunity inside the 351 up towards Ravage into the braking zone. It looks like he is going to defer, which might be a wise choice to see. Again on the, oh no, on the Camel Straight, that's a huge incident. Regale Vita into the side of JP May, and they're both off into the grass at the end of the straight.
Oh. Wet spa, everybody.
Let's see it in the PIP. There it is.
3 wide.
Trying for it.
Oh.
Hey.
Oof.
That is difficult.
You're just not smart. You got to be smart in the wet. I wouldn't do that in the dry.
Ooh, and
Bonk. Oh no. Oh, Mertson having a moment. It kind of collects TA.
Josh Grush just took a bit of a trip into the gravel at Stavilo as well, but yeah, I think that was Vita. I think that might have been a lack of caution there into the back of Mertson in No Name. Vita wide there again. Out. That was the exit of Puon. I think going to think wiser of getting up the inside of JP May this time around. It has just been a nightmarish race, like I said, for so many races. I feel like I'm gonna have to say that at least once or twice more tonight.
Yeah.
But we could still very much see the lead change. I mean, Spiker, for all intents and purposes, felt like this was going to be their race to pretty much lose, or at least get a P2 finish. I mean, these are both incredibly strong results for that driver. We know that they've been fast ever since Kyalami, ever since round 1, but they had a moment on their own, same as Dan Rufus, and twice now, the leader has crashed out on their own, and it was in the same spot as you mentioned before, Andrew, at Puon.
Yeah, I mean, crashes, I would say spins, right? So they're able to recover. Rufus currently in 7th, and he spun from the lead. And then from the lead, it was
Spiker.
Yeah. Spiker currently in 5th.
7.9 seconds off the lead, actually, right now. I mean, it's not a foregone conclusion. So I know that Zip has some fans watching in the chat tonight, but you know, keep a measured attitude about it. Things could still very well go wrong, as we've seen. But for right now, 1.6 second gap behind to Ian Demler, who, for better or worse, might be looking backwards because Zip has the purple lap right now at a 2:31 flat. Dan Rufus has got a yellow flag in the background. That's completely the wrong way at the exit of Stavilo, and that looks like it's going to be a lot of positions lost.
And Rufus was your pole sitter. Just a reminder here, and leading this race.
What a disaster.
Another unfortunate turn of events. After Indy, take it out on lap 1, turn 1, and bah. That's heartbreaking.
He's back on track, but that Porsche is not going. He might actually return to garage.
Yeah, it's not looking to be in good shape.
And there you go.
And now some irony in this race. We've got former, well, I guess it's not necessarily former race leader Austin Red, but would be former race leader Austin Red if he was able to navigate the wipeout from Dan Rufus up against former race leader James Spiker at this point in time. This is the battle for 5th place right now, as we're starting to see some pit stops. And indeed, Dan Rufus does return to garage. And as you mentioned, Andrew, that it didn't look great. It was not that great.
Another driver who has shown up every week, so this will be his drop round. He can afford it. Not, what you want to see, especially from pole, but he can actually take this on the chin.
Here's Aoki and Thompson. In towards the bus stop chicane, the 57 on the outside. Rene Aoki has been closing a lot of gaps so far this race. and is going to be able to make this happen. Thompson actually just going to dip out into the pits. Can't say I dislike that move. If you're going to be overtaken by a GTR in front, you might as well just get your pit stop out of the way. But Rene has been having a reasonably good race so far. Same for Tyler Thompson. I mean, he was up into 8th before they just dipped out into the pits there. So really no complaints for those two drivers at the very least. It feels like they might be some of the only ones that haven't encountered a bit of a tragedy. I mean, if I go down the list, Zip has actually had a good race. Demler as well. Donovan Colton perhaps didn't have the qualifying they were looking for. James Spiker's had a tragedy. Austin Red has had a tragedy. Nathan Schaefer, we haven't even said his name so far, but he's up in P6 right about now. Still has yet to fill his mandatory pit stop as we look towards a potential move here off the end of the Kemmler straight. But it doesn't look like it's going to stick. The Kemmel straight. I was wondering. I confused myself there for a second. Rene who's had a fairly good race. Roger Rodriguez, who, as we haven't really talked about them too much. Thomas Ma's kind of in the same boat, but I believe they have had at least 1 or 2 offs, nothing too severe. So it's been an eventful race. Many drivers have been involved in one incident or another. But it looks like things are finally starting to settle down a little bit. Purple lap now, 2:30.3. That was Donovan Colton on their last lap. That's insane.
Oof.
Yeah, times are coming down. The track's drying, right? The fastest lap 5 minutes ago was a 2:32. Now we're a full 2 seconds faster.
Usually this is also where we talk about fuel burn-off, but in a wet race like this, sometimes the fuel can actually be a little bit of a boon for you, keeping those rears planted to the ground with that little bit of extra weight. So it certainly probably isn't going to be that Austin Red looking like it's on a slightly better line here. Outside of his final corners here, moving on to the back straight.
Reminder, we do have to take, when they pit, they do have to take tires, so that's going to add 30 seconds to stops. So the order will get shaken up. Whoa, Spiker.
Ooh. A bit of a slide.
And a bit of a cutback. They're going to be side by side, heading down the front straight.
If Austin Red if this was a left-hander, Austin Red would have that line. It's going to play it well on the outside of La Source. It's pretty well held here for the 55 and the 728 both. See, Demler's only got a 0.4 second gap now to zip ahead. Car exiting the pit lane there, got to watch out for it. Immediately onto the racing line. I'm sure the race director has had some words for that one.
Picture in picture is staying on that battle. Austin Red, James Spiker.
Battle for the lead is really starting to hot up a little bit as well. Donovan Colton right now in 3rd is 1.2 seconds behind the leader. Kent Van Sickles is an off at no name here, down in P19. Has not pitted yet either, and this looks like it might be a return to garage type of moment for them. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, your leader's yet to pit. Zip currently with a 1 second gap. Colton right behind Demler in a battle for 2nd. Spiker and Red, picture in picture. That's your battle for 4th.
We're going to track here our story among the pitters. It looks like Josh Grush kind of leading the field of those who have taken their pit stop, and there's a couple that are actually coming out right about now. There's Thomas Ma, who's in the pits at the moment. JP May and Rene Oki are both in the pits. I believe JP May is actually, they haven't even stopped yet, so they've got to get all of their service done. So Josh Grush is going to comfortably have the lead over them two. Them three, I should say. But I guess it really does feel like it's up to Zip at this point. I mean, Donovan Colton, despite having the fastest lap, looks like the consistency isn't quite there. 2.7 seconds now the gap to the leader. As we pass the halfway mark, there's still a lot that could evolve in this race, but it's very difficult to really make a prediction on who's going to end up where at this point.
Big picture, though, Donovan Colton leading this championship over Austin Red and then Josh Grush. Austin Red currently in 5th. Josh Grush currently, well, tough to tell, but currently he's sitting P13, but he has made his pit stop already. So big picture, this is huge for Donovan Colton, the rookie. Race winner last week, Austin Red in the pits. Picture in picture now is on Ian Demler, currently in second place, looking a half second up is Zip in his 363, Ferrari 296. Oh, this is real close. This is much closer now. That's Demler tucked up right behind.
This looks like a move.
Rear wing.
Yeah.
Sort of it kind of lifts off the brakes a little bit, you know, maybe thinking that I could have braked a little bit later on that, and yes, he surely could have. We could see Zip was thinking about it. Zip was kind of leaving a little bit of space on the inside, and Dimmler not really fully committing to that, allowed Donovan Colton to close up a little bit behind. So a couple of more instances like that, and we could see a three-way battle for the lead well and truly unfold. Donovan Colton, like I said, who has had by far the strongest ultimate pace so far this race, but has been slightly lacking in the consistency department. So he might have a say yet.
One thing to mention, though, when they were coming down that Kemmel Straight, Ian Demler, he kind of popped out, right? And he was on the right-hand side there, thinking maybe making a move. I was probably thinking, that's something I'm doing to better spot my braking marker. Get out of the spray and then spot my braking marker. So I have no intentions of making a move. I just have intentions of making the corner. Easier to do that when there's a car not right in front of you, particularly in the way.
Austin Red still stopped here. He's racing against Josh Grush right now, who's just moved out of La Source. That 728 needs to get rolling fast, and he is going to be rolling, but there's no way he's going to have Josh Grush beat here. So that's going to be a quick and easy overtake on pit strategy for Josh Grush. Mike Cowley only 0.2 seconds up behind Aaron Kovac there momentarily. Well, it looks like that gap from Ian Demler to Zip has grown a little bit. I don't know if you're still on that. Maybe viewers in the background caught that if you are, but I don't think so. It looked like it was an invalid lap so far for Ian Demler, so maybe just a mistake along the way.
Yeah, losing a little bit of pace there. Colton now on the back end of Ian Demler for second place. And that's on picture in picture. Colton in the 272 Aston Martin on your screen, and just ahead in that 913 red and black McLaren.
Zip's got to be thinking about it now. Last lap for Donovan Colton, a 231.8. Bit of a screamer in the grand context. I mean, it was a 233 flat for both the two drivers ahead of Colton. So he's definitely thinking about forward motion at this time. Aaron Kovac is going to take their opportunity to dip on into the pits.
Zip really going wide, like at Radion. Probably a track limit warning right there.
We haven't seen a drive-through yet, which I'm a bit surprised by. I've seen more than a couple of cars running wide so far this race.
Quite surprising.
Colton getting aggressive. No one's been faster last lap other than Donovan Colton was Josh Grush. But other than Josh Grush, Donovan Colton, fastest guy out there. He also has the fastest lap of the race. So finding pace here in these current conditions is Donovan Colton. Something to look out for.
This is
race winner again last week.
This is the closest battle on track right now. So keep your eye out for it. 1.7, the gap to the leader from Colton. And we've seen the pressure get to the leader twice already this race. Not necessarily this leader, but the leader. We'll see if that develops any further. I mean, Colton, surely even a podium finish here is already solid. I mean, you're ahead of your immediate rivals in the driver's standings, no matter. But just adds icing on the cake. You finished up there on the rostrum. Looking like you might even have an opportunity here at Demler before long. That McLaren has kind of been dropping a little bit of pace so far this lap. That slight lift in on to the flat out section on the back part of the lap here. It looks like David Herrera is very close up behind Mike Cowley. I've just seen a yellow in the back for Kevin Unda. I believe they're still facing in the right direction though.
Picture in picture, I'm just going to shift over to Herrera, looking ahead to Mike Cowley. I will keep an eye on the leaders Zip, Demler, Colton. Doesn't look like any of them. No, Colton in the pits.
Looks like things have seemed to spread out a little bit.
And we had a very lively first part of the race, didn't we? And now...
Yeah, and now everyone's spread out.
It's very, very calm. Not many stories to talk about except for Renaoki getting a yellow, I suppose. But again, still pointing in the right direction. James Spikers in the pits. I mean, we don't really have a whole lot to talk about right now. On my race control, I see like 2 gaps that are inside of a second. This is one of them, obviously. David Herrera up behind Mike Cowley, and then of course it's Ian Demler up behind Zip. But based on their consistency so far, I don't really feel like there's going to be a whole lot of movement potentially happening there. I believe some more drivers into the pits. Cowley and Herrera actually both coming in to get their service.
Picture in picture, just going to be Demler chasing down Zip for the lead.
Unusually calm Division 5 race as of right now.
Yeah.
I feel in my bones something is about to unravel. Something
You
is
never
about to happen.
know. Division 5, I mean, sure they got something up their sleeves.
In fairness,
All it takes is one right tire on Puan. We've seen that.
I'm on board with Zip right now. He's about to go into Puan, in towards this little braking zone. Looks like they're going to be quite cautious about it, though, and I have to give respect where respect is due. I see Thomas Ma's got a yellow flag. Is this race control messing with me? No, the 141 is off on the side, and they're going to lose some time and 1 position to Aaron Kovac. I should mention as well, I believe we started with 24 drivers. We're down to 20, so 4 of them have exited the race server and left us with, well, I wouldn't say it's a bad race necessarily, but it's unfortunate. Spa in the wet, though. If you're ever going to have retirements, Spa in the wet. Not only for morale reasons, but I suppose it wouldn't be necessarily unlikely that we see at least 1 engine explosion. I don't think we have so far, but certainly would have been impossible.
This is a blue flag for Zip. That's going to be JP May in picture in front of him. So maybe if you're Zip, hop into the pits now.
Josh Grush just got past Donovan Colton, who was barely leaving the pit lane there. We're on the Camel Straight. Didn't have the speed, so this is going to be a battle for position now. Half-second gap. We're just seeing Ian Demler. He's in the pits, leaving Zip to roam free, even though it seems like he's been terribly comfortable in the lead. This is Aaron Kovac against Mike Cowley. Should be a relatively cut and dry one. Aaron Kovac loads more speed down the main straight, so no contest there. But David Herrera coming out behind this one as well is most likely going to be looking for some forward motion down into P16. And right now, I mean, many drivers behind those who have pitted.
A quick story, though. Josh Grush, we saw was the first car to pit. Donovan Colton, he's just come out and he's on his outlap. He's actually in between Josh Grush and Austin Red. Those are your 3 championship leaders. Donovan Colton's currently first in the championship. Austin Red in second, Josh Grush in third, but that order is completely swapped. It's Grush leading Colton to Red for 7th place.
You know what I'm noticing as well? Time stopped in the total time in the pit. I believe the optimal time so far, what I'm seeing from my race control, is roughly 1:47 seconds, and the gap to the leader from Grush is only 1:26. But Donovan Colton is 1:27 behind the leader right now, which is perplexing because he was in that fight behind both of the leading cars. So I'm wondering what's... I feel like something is lying to me here, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. But keep an eye out. Zip might not necessarily have this race lead as bagged as they might like. Of course, Grush and Colton have been kind of free to run their own race. You talked about Grush having some fairly solid laps so far. Not the purple lap, but just did a 2:31.2. The previous lap was a 2:31 flat for Grush. So very, very solid on the timing table. Demler still in the pit lane right now, along with Nathan Schaefer, Raf Cab, and Roger Rodriguez. Again, lots of drivers that we haven't really had to talk about today, so my apologies specifically to you lads, but it's been a fairly cut and dry race for most of them.
Rodriguez did finish on the podium at Indy before penalties. I think he ended up 5th. After serving a penalty, but there's been some highlights for Roger Rodriguez. I don't know if we saw him race last week at Valencia. Maybe we did, I'm sorry. Yeah, he did, 21st place but clearly the highlight for him has been Indy. currently now. Roger Rodriguez, this would be the best finish.
Fresh out of the pits, too.
10. Yeah.
Zip is in. We'll now see. So Josh Grush, the leader, if I'm not mistaken, still the leader of those who have taken their pit stop, coming down towards the braking zone into Puan right now. So Zip has got that to worry about, and it is indeed a long and painful pit lane here on Spa-Francorchamps.
Josh Grush is the McLaren in your picture-in-picture, so to get an idea, we'll be watching where he comes out with Zip currently in the pits.
At one of the closest gaps in the race right now. Thomas Ma taking a very defensive line here into Rivage with David Herrera immediately behind. A driver who's looking to make a lot of forward motion. Started all the way back in P23 after having a qualifying ban for this race. But it's looking like they're going to make quick work here of Ma in towards Puan, but will they be able to hold on to it is the real question. I see a yellow flag for Aaron Kovac, and they are around here as the exit of Puan. So David Herrera is going to get one more position out of that overtake.
Ooh, big slide there from Josh Grush. He's on the throttle. He's hard right now. He's trying to chase Z. This is Z, picture-in-picture. He still hasn't moved. He's in the pit still. This is going to be a change. Has to be.
Time in the pitch, 1:25. Yeah.
Here comes Grush. Oh, this is going to be your leader, Josh Grush.
He is on the move. Donovan Colton just getting a little bit closer by the looks of it a few moments ago. Half a second away. Oh! Zip! Stop and go 30.
No!
Oh no! Zip! Oh!
Speeding in the pit lane.
P2. Oh.
Another disaster for the lead driver. And now, with Grush coming up the inside, it's hardly worth fighting. You just need to keep it clean, because this is no longer your battle. Grush is looking at a potential win, and Donovan Golden is looking at a potential win back-to-back races now.
Wow. Crazy how quickly things can change.
Another disaster for the leading racer.
Yeah.
And we saw the leader, Spiker, spun at Puan. We saw, who else was spun from the lead?
Dan Rufus.
Dan Rufus, thank you, spun from the lead. And then a stop go 30 for Zip from the lead.
Honorable mention to Austin Red as well, who's caught up in the Dan Rufus incident, of course. Just as disastrous for him as it was for Dan Rufus. I mean, a P2 finish is certainly respectable, but, you know, Austin Red was up behind that Porsche pretty much the whole time. At the very least, Austin Red is still in 6th place, and most likely going to get promoted with his top go 30. I mean, what is that? I mean, that's another. If the time in the pits for a tire change is a 30-second stop, so it should be 1-1. It will be another minute and 47 seconds worth of a stop for Zip. With current gap to the leader being 44 seconds, and all the way down at the bottom of the field is Eric Rutherham, 1 minute 54 behind the lead. That is every single position that is currently on the field. Zip is going to be demoted pretty much to last place, if I'm doing the math correctly. That is just ludicrous.
That is really, that is so rough. Oh.
Yeah, that'll take him. Oh, we've lost quite a few drivers, but you're right. That'll put him down to last. So this means Grush is going to inherit the lead, right behind Donovan Colton. Half second behind. Demler not far away, 1.3 seconds behind. Last laps. The fastest of your top three, Donovan Colton, currently in 3rd.
Ian Demler is not that far behind, with Zip being in front of the two prospective leaders now. I'm assuming he wasn't pushing as hard, because the last thing you want to do after getting a stop go 30 is wipe out. And surely, you know, holding up the two drivers behind you, all that can really do is benefit your race in a roundabout way. You know, who knows? Maybe they'll wipe out. But one way or the other, you know, probably not pushing too hard. So that allowed Demler to close up to the back of the two leaders now. And if they continue to fight, this is going to present more of an opportunity for Daimler to stay in the conversation, which would be a phenomenal finish. But I have to address the elephant in the room here. Stop go 30 for speeding in the pit lane, especially on this track. That just seems ludicrous.
Number 292, drive-through for track limits. We have our first, I believe, drive-through for tonight.
You'd be right. That's Eric Rotherham. I don't know. I'm lost for words.
Yeah.
Stop go 30 for speeding in the pit lane, especially if it's only like a very, very minor infraction. I just...
P2 as well. That would have been podium.
Well, P1 functionally.
Yeah, no, yeah, he came out.
Stop.
Yeah, he came out in front of Josh Grush.
Yeah.
Assuming he wasn't, going extremely fast in the pits, but he did come out in front.
Oh yeah, Vitier also needs to pit, so if Zip didn't get that stop and go 30, like it would have been like a battle for the lead.
Yeah. He was a D6 driver, right? Promoted. Perfect opportunity. He's leading a race. Wet conditions basically handed to him. And those are mistakes that, you can only blame yourself, but those are hard pills to swallow.
Yeah. Very.
Like I said,
really rough.
It's a look. If it really is 1 minute 47 seconds, which seems to be like the optimal stop in the pits, for just pressing your pit limiter too early. That's all. That's all it is.
Yep.
Very simple, minor infraction. But as you said, Andrew, you can really only blame yourself. The severity of the penalty aside, it's quite easy to avoid it. All you got to do is just wait until you get to the pit lane. Oh, Kevin Undo. That's a hard mouth moment there at the exit of Stavelo as Aaron Kovac went around right in front of him. And the gap has panned out, by the way. Ian Demler 1.2 seconds behind Donovan Colton, who was 1.6 behind Josh Grush. And Colton still has the purple lap, but that consistency continues to elude the Aston Martin driver. 231.1 last lap for Josh Grush, your provisional race leader. 233 flat for Donovan Colton. That is a massive lack of performance in the spot where you absolutely need some performance.
And our second drive-through, 313 Herrera. Oh, the drive-thrus are coming in now, by the looks of it.
Saoki against Spiker on the main straight. I believe this may... I don't know. I don't know where this developed from, but Aoki, he's right up behind the Ferrari. I was just about to say, I think this developed from a pit stop, but I don't think that's true. One way or the other, though, it is a fight that's going on. In fact, it is far and away the closest gap that we have on track right now. David Herrera, though, again, his season continues to be one of... I hate to use this word, but this has to be one of the worst seasons for a driver in Division 5 so far. He's very clearly talented in terms of pace, and we've seen that he has the aggression that you need to be a racing driver. We see side by side here through Puan. It looks like Ren Aoki is going to have a bit of a Tokyo drift here in the perfect car to do it, I imagine. But either way, getting back to what I was saying, for David Herrera, it must be one of the most disappointing seasons that we've seen so far for a driver with so much potential.
Yeah, I mean, as far as qualifying is concerned, his average start is on the third row, so has pace. Started today with a qualifying ban, so we didn't really get to participate in that session, so we had to start from the back. Just accumulated penalties throughout the season, which is why he had to start in the pits. But definitely a driver with pace. It's the race where he continues to find some trouble. Other than Kyalami, right? Second to Kyalami, but then he's got finishes 35th, 33rd, 15th, 12th. So his average finish is 19th. Starts the race in 5th or 6th typically. It tells you all you need to know.
Yep.
Like I said, it's not something I really love to call out, but this is the way that it is. Herrera almost surely going to be looking forward to next season as potential for improvement. And there's still 2 races to go after Spa. So no telling what goes on with that. And still, I mean, a P19 finish here, well, based on what we just talked about, I mean, even just finishing this race, And of course, or runner in my head still has to serve a drive-through penalty, so that's going to be even one more position you could still potentially pick up. And who knows, there might be another crash yet ahead. There's 9.5 minutes left to go in this race. So there are still definitely stories to be told. You know, got to keep your head down. And I feel like he's probably tired of hearing that from us by this point. But that's just the way that it is. This is Aoki up behind Spiker. I can't help but wonder, by the way, I noticed Spiker was braking a little bit early into the bus stop chicane. Thompson is roughly 8 seconds behind this battle. Their teammate, I wonder if Spiker might be trying to back up the car behind a little bit in an effort to pull Thompson into the conversation here.
We are just under 9 minutes to go in this race, so probably only about 4 laps for Josh Grush. Been on the podium twice this season, both in second place. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, at Valencia, served a drive-through penalty. That cost him what would have been his 3rd podium. But there's been 2 heartbreaks for him. Josh Grush lost the lead at Indianapolis from a back marker, right? So still looking for that first win, Josh Grush, and here he is again in a position to do just that.
It's a bit ironic as well. One of the things I said at the beginning of the race is that we had a very unique top 5 or so qualifiers, in that there were many drivers there with the potential to do some great things today, and the top 5 that we see right now, at least the top 5 that we're expecting by the end of the race, are all drivers that we've seen roughly in these positions before. We're on board. Rene Oki still trying to get by James Spiker here through Blanchimont in towards the bus stop chicane. It's very obvious that this GTR is incredibly strong in the straight line. I can't help but feel that Rene Oki is setting up this car most races for very solid straight line speed, and Spiker is well deep here at the bus stop. This is going to open the door now for Aoki. Kind of gets parked up a little bit behind the 55 though. Spiker took a bit of a defensive line on that one, and unfortunately all you can really do is wait behind, and now towards La Source, still going to be behind.
Rene Oki, winner at Indy, right?
Yep.
And trying to chase down James Spiker, who was once in the lead of this race.
See, Donovan Colton's got an invalid lap on the last lap, and we've only seen one drive-through so far, but that's not to say that we won't see another one. So I know that most drivers don't have the stream up in the background while they're driving, and good on you for doing that. It's best to focus on the race at hand, but if you are listening in, make sure you stay inside track limits for God's sake. I do not want to see another drive-through come up for one of our top 10 racers here in the dying moments of the race, especially with most of the gaps being fairly low, or excuse me, very large at this point in time. Really, we've only got Rene Oki up behind James Spiker, and Roger Rodriguez just a little bit further down the road contesting Tyler Thompson, which I must add, I mentioned at the start of the race before we really got underway. This VTI's got a bit of yellow, but it looks like they're still in a straight line.
Maybe heading to the pits.
It's a story of, for Corsa Spazzatura, it's the exact same story as Valencia. You know, well, at least for Tyler Thompson. Poor qualifying, pits early, right back into one of the top points-paying positions in the top 10. So really, no worries for Tyler Thompson. Strategy was played to perfection. James Spiker qualified higher up the order and may have dropped down a couple of positions, but only 2. Still not bad. Still in the top 10.
I mean, they're going to run away with the team championship, especially with Fear Nothing Moto turning into Fear Nothing at all. So Josh Grush is going to do that on his own now. So that they're going to have the team championship probably wrapped up.
Wait a minute, Ian Demler. The gap from Austin Red to Ian Demler just closed down to underneath half a second. I think Demler might have had a moment. You want to see if you can get Demler's cam back about 20 or 30 seconds? And we'll see, maybe we can catch that. No, the gap already looks like it's coming down at this point. I mean,
Well, he did go wide there. Probably had to lift. But this is big for Austin Red. Anything he can do to carve into this championship and add extra points against Josh Grush are vital.
And for both these guys, though, Keep it clean. It's in the last 5 minutes of the race. Sure, you're racing for position, but you're both in the top 5 at this point in time. If you both wreck out now, that's going to be a huge points hit for both of you. So we love some hard racing, but we like some clean racing as well. And I would really, really hate for this to be the story of their race, especially for Austin Red, who's already been taken out of the podium positions once this race and a potential race win. Oh no. Oh, that's a yellow for Renaoki, but they're still on track. Just a little bit of a cut at Radion. No big deal. I hope I don't see a drive-through penalty come up here, and I don't think there will be one. And Austin Red, he's looking up the inside towards Ravage, but there's just nothing in it. Slightly defensive shape there for Demler. No harm, no foul.
Demler fastest lap last week. I keep saying last week. 2 weeks ago at Valencia.
Oh, that's a huge
whoa.
snap. Whoa.
Ooh, hello.
Had to lift.
Yeah. Well done for Demler to keep that under control, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Raf Cav's got a drive-through penalty. That's the 906 in P12.
Well, it's about this time we start seeing those, right? So you've gone an hour into a wet spa. You know, and track cut's going to add up. You start getting tired, right?
Hour in a wet spa, you get tired. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Renaoki is still trying to get up behind Spiker here as well. He's probably getting tired of this. VTI finally dips into the pits too.
Picture in picture is on your leader, Josh Grush. Just over 3 minutes to go in this race. Likely 2 laps to go for Josh Grush. That car in front of him. I'm sorry, nope, never mind.
VTI looking like they're going to drop down quite significantly on the order. I think down towards 16th, 17th, roughly around there. So might yet be a little bit of a race for a couple of positions down there. Of course, with RavCab having another drive-through. Hey, for Herrera, again, you know, that's just one more position. At least you're getting out of that. I know it's really rough times, but again, Renaoki having a bit of a slide there out of Blanchimont. Nothing really surprising me on that one, but this gap has been underneath of a second for quite a while. I'm not really tempted to say that this has been a strong defensive drive from Spiker. It really feels like their pace is just such that they're able to keep the GTR behind. They've made a couple of mistakes, and it might be setup related as well. I mean, this GTR surely has been stronger in a couple of spots, but that Ferrari absolutely destroys it in other portions of the track. So I just think it's not quite there for Renaoki.
I mean, the story's got to be with 2 minutes left to go in this race. Your leader is Josh Grush. Second place is Donovan Colton. Third place is Austin Red. Those are the 3 drivers leading this championship. These 3 drivers have now separated from the rest of the field, in my opinion, for the rest of the season. These are the guys to watch. Grush, Colton, Red.
If ever there was a time to push, now is it. For Donovan Colton, 1.5 seconds behind the lead. I'll try to keep an eye on Renaoki in the background, but we'll probably want to follow this one all the way to the line, as you mentioned. This is quite the close battle between these 3. Last lap, it was Grush who was the fastest of these 3, and by quite a margin. It was a 2:31.2 versus Colton's 2:31.9, so not a whole lot in it there. JP May is in the pit, as well as Raf Cab, serving drive-through penalty for Raf Cab. But at this point in time, it doesn't look like there's going to be any more inversions in the top 3. So we'll keep our eye on it as that develops. Renaoki again, only a 10th up behind James Spiker as they got through some blue flag traffic just a moment ago, and is going to be eager to try to make this move happen. I don't think this is going to be the checkered flag, but it might be the white flag lap coming up.
Yeah, there definitely should be one more lap to go.
VTR coming out of the pits. Oh, that's a lot of wheel spin. Came out of the pits a little bit of a second under Kevin Unda. Rodriguez closing the gap up behind Tyler Thompson. It's an invalid lap for Donovan Colton at this point. I know I mentioned it before, but the last thing you want is a drive-through. You're not going to make up 2.5 seconds in one lap. If Josh Grush makes a mistake, you do need to be there to capitalize on it, but you just need to make sure you're securing that P2 finish right now. If you get a drive-through, that's going to be devastating for your points in this competition. Renaoki is looking for the inside line in towards the bus stop chicane. Much later on the brakes, it appears, was Spiker. Again, keeping it clean is the most important. Looking for the switchback potential potentially out of the bus stop, but there's just going to be nothing in it for Renaoki.
4.3 miles to go for Josh Grush. He is your leader. In the picture, Still seeking his first SRA career win. He's been second twice. He's been in the position to win, but it hasn't happened. Josh Grush almost there. Donovan Colton in second. Austin Red in third. The gap to Colton to Grush is 2.3. It's another 3.5 to Red. Grush has just got to keep this car on, and it's his.
Bit of
Last
a
lap
there for James Spiker. Renaoki looks like they finally got the move done. There was a little bit too much hydroplaning at that puddle at the exit of the pit lane. But Spiker later on the brakes is going to send it. Nathan Schaefer's got a bit of a yellow, but he's okay. And Spiker holds on to that position. So we'll have to keep an eye on that battle as it develops. So following Josh Grush around, you just got to keep it clean, as you mentioned, Andrew. And again, at this point, 2.4 seconds is loads of time for a gap. The same goes for Donovan Colton. You just have to keep it safe, keep it clean. Here, this is essentially the in lap for you at this point. So all you got to do is make sure you're keeping your wheels off the curbs whenever you're being gentle on the power and things aren't going wrong for you. Renaoki loses James Spiker's tail, and that's going to be about the end of the tails that we have for Spa, so long as nobody ruins it. Stabilo for the last time for the 351. Fear nothing, Moto. It's going to be Josh Grush across the line first, so long as he can keep it together. Only one more major braking zone for this driver, and it's been a phenomenal drive indeed. Hasn't got the fastest lap, but had the consistency. Donovan Colton is most likely going to be wanting this one back. Through Blanchimont, keeps it clean, keeps it inside track limits, which, like I said, is probably going to be the most important thing you're thinking about. Into the last heavy braking zone on the lap. Josh Grush keeps it nice and clean, keeps it clean on the power, and he's going to be a one celebrating driver today. Donovan Colton going to be coming across the line immediately behind for a P2 finish, and Austin Red only 2.5 seconds down the road takes P3. I think Colton doing a little bit of a celebratory wiggle there.
It's a statement win for Josh Grush at a soaked Spa, and he's going to be doing some spins in the spray. Josh Grush, first career win at Sim Racing Alliance. The fireworks going off. Congratulations, Josh Grush.
TA with a drive-through.
Oh.
P12 currently. Oh, that's another one.
Oh, here's Kevin Unda, actually. Hang on. Might be some action yet. Lots of drivers coming across the line. You can see who's finished on your left-hand side of the screen, but Kevin Unda coming in through Blanchimont. That's Aaron Kovac fighting for P13.
Thomas Mott, drive-through.
No.
Another one. To P11, P12. Oh, no. It's just happening now on the final lap where, oh, the drive-through.
Kovac overtaken there by Kevin Unda in the last corner, but I think Kevin Unda knows it. Well, I don't know if that was necessarily a dirty overtake for Unda, but he let Kovac back past before the line, and whether or not that was actually merited for Kevin Unda kind of shows a little bit of the sportsmanship here. I don't necessarily know if that was a dirty move by the book definition, but Kevin Unda didn't feel very satisfied with it. It's only for one position down in just outside the top 10. Might as well let him on by. No bad blood. I love that. I do.
Yeah, good finish for
Always
Kevin.
does well.
Good qualifying, right? Inside the top 10, I believe finished P8, or start of the race P8. And what? This race, what? P14? His best rate finish before this was 18th. So take the points. In a small field, there's good points on offer.
Oh, yeah.
David Mertzen coming across the line here, too. There are still a couple of drivers ahead of them who got those plus 80 seconds, though. You talked about on the last couple of laps. Regale Vita and Thomas Ma both getting drive-through penalties, so all you got to do is come across the line, and indeed they do. They keep it clean. Well, relatively clean. There were still some complications here and again, but for the most part, it was a solid race. Can't necessarily complain about that one. I will say, very, very active in the opening moments of this one. First half certainly felt like an incredibly lively event, and then we very much cooled down for the second part.
Yeah.
Rufus, right? Started on pole. was in control, and his right tire touched Puan on the outside curb, spun. Same thing, Spiker, a few minutes later. But it was Josh Grush, Donovan Colton, and Austin Red. This is going to come down to the last week, the three of these guys.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I wish we had the updates for the standings immediately
Well,
to hand, but...
Yeah, Grush will be your leader in the championship, no question.
Yes.
Then it should be Donovan Colton and then Austin Red. So it's as they finished will be your championship. Grush will be leading Colton.
Well, we have, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Red Bull Ring next week. The new track.
Yep.
And then we have, for the last one, I don't remember, Selena?
Silverstone.
Silverstone. Ah, yes, I should have remembered the, we got the 8 hours coming up, of course, on April the 13th, too. But, of course, talking about the here and now, Wet Spa, is it what we expected? Yes and no. I think I expected more. I expected more carnage out of the second half of the race than I did in the first, I suppose. You know, like the first 1 or 2 laps, yes, carnage, expected. But the first entire half of the race, I mean, there were some close gaps for a long time.
Yeah, that's quite surprising to see.
Yeah, no one really ran away with this race. We had, 4 or 5 different leaders throughout the race. This is... I just think this season is... we know the 3 players, right? But this is our 6th winner in 6 races.
Indeed it is. But looking preliminarily at the standings here, Corsa Spazzatura, again, solid finish for them. But I'm looking at the standings right now on the ACCSM page. We don't have the graphic, unfortunately, so we can't put that on your screens. But I do see Josh Grush is indeed in the lead, 442 points against Donovan Colton, 436. Austin Red, 409. But all the way down into 6th place with Ren Aoki, 347 points, 100 away. All it takes is one bad finish from some of the top players and one good finish for you, and suddenly you are in contention again. I mean, if we talk about taking Josh Grush and Donovan Colton out of the situation, the gap is only 60-some points and some change to Austin Red from Ren Aoki. That's P3 to P6. So it's still anybody's ball game. If that's the big qualifying factor. But it's not always a situation where you have the competition this close. I mean, this could end up turning out like a 2021 where we get right down to the wire. A lot of the times it's more or less like, oh, I just need to finish in X position and I'll be fine for the next race. But if Josh Grush, Donovan Golden, and Austin Red finish relatively close together for the next for the next race, then Silverstone could be a complete toss-up between the 3 of them where they're directly competing for position. It's not going to be a case of I just need to finish in 12th place and I'll win. It's I need to beat this driver specifically in order to take the win. So this is going to be wonderful.
Well, the pressures just got ramped up, right? So watch the lap times. Watch the number of laps run this week between those 3. It'll probably be the highest it's been all season.
Okay, and you know what? Hang on. I might do something interesting here for the broadcast. Hang on. I've got an idea. Let me cook, as they say, as the kids say. Oh God, I'm terrible. I'm so old. I'm in esports years. I'm old. All right. Look, that's all I'm gonna say about it. Maybe not in the sim racing esports scene, but in esports, I'm an old man. I'm 25. I know many of you who are watching probably just you're probably hurt to hear that, but I want to see if we can get all 3 of our podium finishers in to hear what they have to say. So I'm going to pull Josh Grush in first. That's for sure. So let's get Josh Grush on in to hear his thoughts on what's going on here. So race winner now, Josh Grush. Welcome to the chat, my good sir. Well, it might not have been the situation you were expecting, but you take what you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. P8 to P1.
Huge advancement. And your first win in SRA as well. How you feel?
Yep.
So, Wet Spa?
Feeling very relieved. Yeah, very relieved. Spent the whole season kind of beating myself up and got pretty demotivated after the last few races, but it feels good to finally bring it home.
Yeah, it's definitely one well earned considering what happened thinking back starting at Indy. But this one, there was some things that happened in front of you, but I don't think you made a mistake. At least if you did, we didn't catch it on camera. And in the wet, that can be pretty difficult. Talk about the conditions at Spa today.
This was probably one of the drier sessions, to be honest with you, of the practice servers. The lap times were kind of hovering around the 31 range, whereas in the practice servers they've been around the 34 to 38, 39 range. So and I had just run another hour-long spa race dry the week before, so I was kind of able to combine the two practice and the dry, and basically use that to get the pace that I wanted.
Well, what's the drink of choice? We've asked quite a few of the guys this week or this season how they're going to celebrate. How are you going to celebrate your first SRA win tonight?
It'll be a bottle of 805 that I got in the fridge.
Well, yeah.
Oh.
Hang on just a second, because I want to see if we can get this, because it is a phenomenally close battle in the standings right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do something a little bit unorthodox. I'm going to pull in Austin Red, and I'm going to pull in Donovan Colton. And I kind of want to just let you guys talk about this, because it is a very close battle right now. You finished in the top 3 each on this race. And right now, I believe it's Josh, you are in the lead with 442 points. Donovan, you are in second, 436. And Austin, you're very, very close behind that as well. I think it's about a 30-point gap, but you're still very much in the mix. What are you guys all thinking in relation to each other? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. It's a good-looking podium, though.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was 2 people I came in wanting to beat, and they finished in front of me, so that was cool.
Yeah, Austin, I mean, tell us about the Dan Rufus incident. What was going through your head at that point?
Yeah, he got a little squirrely, went left. I thought I would be clear to go around the right. Should have been a little smarter than that. He hit the wall, came right back over immediately, and took me out. So that was unfortunate. It is what it is. But luckily, I was able to get back on the track pretty quickly and not lose too many positions. So I'm not too upset at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, P3 finish is still incredibly solid, especially if you almost got wrecked out. I mean, it was a huge spin for you. Donovan, you must have been a little bit displeased with yourself. I mean, you had the purple lap of the race, so congratulations on that one. It was a screamer of a lap, but the consistency just wasn't there when you were chasing down Josh. I mean, speaking from your perspective, Josh, what was that looking like for you? Were you confident, or were you kind of looking at it?
I was definitely looking at it, watching the gap go from 3 seconds to 1 second to 3 seconds to 1 second. I think we both were having our moments and coming back and getting ahead of each other and having our moments again. And that was my view of it.
Donovan?
Yeah, for me, I just kind of lost it in that I lost the consistency in the last stint there. So I ended up kind of just like mostly I actually wasn't even looking at the gap in front of me. I was just looking at the gap to me in Austin. So I was pretty much just focused on that. But yeah.
I mean, you guys all had. It wasn't really a whole lot of direct wheel-to-wheel racing, but I mean, what were we thinking?
Hey, Josh and I had a couple moments for sure. We had some good.
Yeah, definitely
good
first couple
side by
laps.
side.
That was good.
Yeah.
The first couple of laps were pretty crazy. I mean, we were seeing a lot of gaps that were very, very low at that point in time.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining that the focus was probably more so on survival rather than actually.
Oh, for sure. I don't know. There was a couple times I at least was getting my elbows out with Josh there, but I mean, just trying to capitalize off of runs from Eau Rouge and Radion. So
yeah, incredibly challenging corners we were talking about. For all of you guys, I guess, did you really notice a whole lot of development with the line going through? And was your strategy on the pits more or less related to tire wear, or were you just kind of looking for spots where you could get the undercut or overcut?
For me personally, it was full undercut. I had committed to that last night in the practice race and realized how powerful it was in just a 30-minute stint. So I knew it was going to be powerful in an hour stint.
yeah, and for me, I was when Josh went in, I just thought I have some really good pace. That's when I put in my fastest lap, and so, but then right when my tires fell off, I was kind of like thinking in my head, when do I go? And I chose 1 lap too late, so it was not. I really wish I went in a lap earlier, but no problem.
Yeah, undercut for me. I was behind James Spiker, and he was defending really well. So I'm like, you know what? I'm pitting. If he doesn't pit, I'm pitting, and I'm gonna leave him alone. So that was my strategy.
All right. Now I think my last question. I'm gonna open up the floor for my co-host here in a second, but what was going through your guys' heads when Zip came out of the pit, was in front of you? I think Austin, this will apply a little bit less to you, but Zip came out of the pits, it was in front of you, but picked up the stop go 30. I mean, at that point, was it all like, oh my god, I got a very, very real shot to win this race, even more so than before? Or were you still just trying to focus on the car for Donovan, the car immediately in front of you?
I think for me it was a bit of both. I know the championship battle's tight, so I was focusing on Colton behind me quite a bit. But then when Zipperburn checked up in front of me going into the end of the straight, it definitely caught me off guard a little bit, and I wasn't quite ready for it. I think I lost like a full second at the end of that straight trying to stay behind him, and yeah.
Austin,
Well, I just want to say congratulations again, Josh. That was
yeah.
It was great to see to get your first win, especially what's happened earlier in the season. Colton, you got yours. Red, you're next, man.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, there are a lot of very challenging braking zones on the Red Bull Ring to get exactly right, and the Lamborghini has been fairly strong in the braking zones. So I foresee potentially good things coming your way, although the McLaren 7020S GT3 Evo is still OP. I will stand by this until I die. I raced it last season. It was super, super good. So
I have some bad news about the Rebel Ring for me. I'll be missing the race, so.
Oh!
No.
That's a big deal, Josh.
That's a really
Yeah,
good deal.
I'll be at a work.
You already took your
Oh.
drop round.
Yep. I'll be at a work conference. Nothing I can do about it, unfortunately. So.
Oh,
That's
So you and me,
actually, I do know something you can do about that. You could. I'm saying hypothetically. All right, I'm not trying to give you like any you must do this, but you could just quit your job. I don't know if that's something you're thinking about right no.
paycheck. What is a
I don't
paycheck?
think so.
Hey, you know how big the prize is for D5 Championship this season? It's a whole. Oh wait, no.
It'll be next to your name.
There's a lot of zeros. There's a lot of zeros behind the first digit. The first digit also happens to be a zero, but there's a lot of zeros behind that first digit.
Gosh, you should have made Austin and Donovan sweat this week.
Yeah,
You should have kept that to yourself.
that's a really good point.
Oh, man.
Oh man.
Great race, guys.
Yeah, fantastic
Thank you very much.
race.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
thanks.
And do you have any last words for stream for each other? Anything to say?
Just great racing, fellas. That's all I got to say. It was awesome.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, it was a great time. Thanks for you guys commentating and all that.
Yep, thank you guys for commentating. Connor, I'll see you next week. Colton, sorry.
Colton.
Oh
Connor.
man, well, that's some
Close.
disrespect. You guys can cash that out in the race chat. Get
Yeah,
out-
yeah.
get out of here.
we got.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna get him out. So thanks so much for joining us. But talking about the cooldown now. I mean, what to expect for next week? Obviously, don't expect Josh Crush. He's not going to be there.
Yeah, huge
know,
news.
Yeah.
Huge news there.
Can't help feeling a little bit disappointed about that. I'm not sure. Will we see another Dan Rufus pole position? Who knows?
Yeah, you never know.
Quickly, though, we do have to mention what makes this possible. And I know we read some of these ad reads at the end of every stream, but they are really important. So if there is one of these companies or vendors that you could use their help from, it would really go a long way. So a huge thank you to our SRA sponsors and title sponsors for supporting us here. You can contribute to SRA. Even if it's a couple months a month, you can get your name at the beginning of the stream screen. That goes a long way. So thank you to those people. We get support from Documise, a modern business solution from product management. Go to documise.com to learn more today. Support from Retro Saga, a North American-based gaming company that provides accessories for your favorite classic systems, including Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, and much more. Enhance your retro gaming experience today at retrosaga.ca. Our Retro Saga move of the day, well, I guess it is your winner, Josh Crush, getting around a Zip who had a stop go 30. So he made it the easy way for his first race win. A big thank you to our affiliates, Track Racer. Experience redefined gaming with Track Racer's high quality sim rigs and accessories. Again, use code SRATE at checkout to support us. Our track racer fastest lap of the race, Donovan Colton. Armamentario, a toolbox for ACC that will enhance your chance to win. Enjoy a fully customizable and enhanced HUD to change the way you experience ACC. AT3D Sim Shop, upgrade your sim racing experience with premium 3D printed accessories featuring precision crafted magnetic shifters, sleek cable management solutions, versatile stream deck mounts, and immersive dashboard displays. Their innovative designs enhance performance and style. Elevate every lap with top-tier quality and craftsmanship at at3d.net. And lastly, Go Setups, premium esports setups for everyone. Use our affiliate link on our Discord and take your drive to the next level. Our Go Setups pole position today was Dan Rufus. So thank you very much to our sponsors.
Yep. And a huge shout out to Go Setups. I think in particular, you know, I've had a bit of a storied career in esports. And I've done a lot of ad reads in my time. And I don't think that I've ever actually believed in some of the sponsors as much as I believe in the sponsors and affiliates for SRA and Go Setups in particular.
Agreed.
There's one other instance I can think of in like my entire esports career where I actually think that something is worth using from an ad read, but I can tell you for a fact, Armamentario, super good. Go Setups, super good. And the rest of the stuff that we have on hand is also incredibly useful stuff. So massive shout out to those guys. Alas, that's the end of the racing for today.
What a race.
That's the end of the
Another
racing.
one in the books.
Yeah, it almost feels a little bit surreal that we're at the end of this stream. Usually, it kind of like wraps up, and you're like, well, that rounded out nicely. I feel like we're missing something almost. I don't know.
I wonder.
Well, the 2-week break might be part of it, but we do have the Red Bull Ring happening next week. Again, same bad time, same bad place, right here on the YouTube channel for the Sim Racing Alliance. But that's not all of the racing for this week. You'll find this channel live tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. Is it Eastern Standard Time right now, or is it Eastern Daylight Time? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. It's 9 p.m. Eastern Time. 9 p.m. Eastern Time right here on the YouTube channel. Of course, the Twitch is also going to be live at 9 p.m. With one of the other races. I don't know which one, because it doesn't matter, because D3 is going to be right here on the YouTube channel, and that's the one that I'm racing in. So you're definitely going to want to see me crash out half the field here tomorrow, but if you want to see any of the 3 races that are happening tomorrow, make sure to join the Discord, and you will find all of the links to all of the streams there, and of course, all of the VODs will be posted to the YouTube channel in their own time. But we specifically, as I mentioned, we'll be back next week, round 7 for the Red Bull Ring. Any final thoughts from you guys before we close it out?
No, not really. Just that was a really good race. Another one in the books, as I've said earlier. Really good race. Keep it up, D5.
6 races, 6 different winners. This is going to come down to the last week. Josh Grush, I think you take Andrew's advice. Find another job.
Well,
Yeah.
My life advice might not be very good, but the driving certainly has been. So that's going to be it for us tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your support as always. And like I said, next week, same time, same place. It's round 7 for the Red Bull Ring with Division 5. We'll see you then.